My name is Ben Mims, and I'm the cooking columnist for the LA Times. Recently, the LA City Council voted to ban gas stoves in all new buildings in the city of Los Angeles. Going gas-free is clearly better for the environment, but gas stoves are the most common cooktops in the country, so switching to induction or electric will be a big adjustment. Here in the LA Times test kitchen, we have both, because each has great benefits for executing cooking at home. The experience of cooking with them is very different, but by and large, they can accomplish the same results. I'm here to show you a few simple tasks that demonstrate the pros and cons of each style of cooktop and how it might impact your cooking in the future. I have two pots here. Each one is filled with a gallon of water. One is on a gas-powered stovetop and the other on an induction. I'm going to turn both on at the same time, and we're going to see how fast each one brings that water to a boil. Okay, it's on high. So I'm going to start here. So as you can see, we have the same size pot, same amount of water. We didn't put the lids on both of these pots, but they more or less came to a boil around the same time. Induction was a little under 14 minutes, while gas was a little over 14 minutes. So induction technically wins, but I would say more or less each is comparable in executing this task. So for this next test, I'm going to caramelize half a cup of sugar in a dry skillet, both to see how fast it can happen, but also how evenly the heat is distributed in gas cooking versus induction. So first, I'm going to start with the gas stove. So I'm going to let the sugar sit in the skillet undisturbed to see how the heat distributes in the skillet, and we'll be able to see that by where the sugar starts to caramelize first. Normally you would shake the skillet or stir it to get even heat distribution, but we want to see actually if there are hot spots, if they're not in the skillet using gas cooking. So we're just going to let this sit here to see what happens. Already I can see that the sugar is melting around the perimeter of the pan, and especially one spot is already like almost dark and burned. So we're seeing a hot spot there. And we're seeing another little hot spot right here. So it's not super even, but it is even coming from the outside in. So now the sugar all around the outside is caramelized and kind of burning. So I am going to shake it a little bit just to kind of evenly distribute the sugar to make sure it all doesn't burn. But as we see, there was a hot spot in one side and now it's kind of all even. So I'll give it a little shake here. And as you can see, it's also catching fire. We want it all melted. All right, so now all the sugar is caramelized, pretty dark. That took about a little under 3.5 minutes. So now we're gonna see how it does on the induction cooktop as well. So again, I've set the heat in the induction stovetop under the pan of sugar to the highest heat setting. So we'll see how long it takes for the sugar to caramelize and if the heat is more evenly distributed than it did on the gas stovetop. So already I can see that the sugar is melting around the perimeter again of the skillet. This time there are no hot spots. It's pretty evenly kind of clear to light brown. So already we have a little more even heat distribution than we do from the gas stovetop. I'm seeing a few bubbles now from under the sugar, which didn't happen in the gas stovetop. So at this point, I'm starting to see some dark spots. I'm gonna shake the skillet so it kind of evenly mixes together and melts. But this is happening much faster than it did on the gas stovetop. So the sugar is now all evenly dissolved, melted, much nicer caramel color. And this only took about 2 minutes and 45 seconds, so much faster than it did on the gas stovetop. The heat drops from it pretty quickly, so there's no risk of it burning like it also does on the gas stovetop. So what I noticed in cooking the sugar on both gas versus induction is more evenly distributed with the heat, and it has a little more control over the amount of heat going into the skillet. On the gas stovetop, the flame made it really hot, took a little bit longer, but also produced more hot spots that made the caramel burn. Whereas on the induction, the heat was more even and it produced a more light golden caramel color that didn't have burning in spots, and it actually happened in a minute less than it did on the gas stovetop. So for this last test, I'm going to stir fry some rice, and that will help show how hot each skillet can get under gas stovetop versus induction stovetop. So it's been about 4 minutes now that the skillet has been on the heat. What I'm going to do is grab a few drops of water and throw it in the skillet. I'll know that it's ready if the water drops stay as a ball but kind of dance around the skillet. If they evaporate immediately, that means it's too hot. And if they don't do anything at all, that means it's too cold. So as you can see, these water droplets, they're staying as balls, kind of joined together, kind of moving around the skillet. So this is at the right heat. So now I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of oil. And immediately, that's hot and ready. So I'm going to add some cooled rice that I have here. So I toss the rice with the oil, and now I'm going to kind of spread it out a little bit and see how long it takes for that rice to get nice and caramelized and crispy on the bottom. So it's been about 1.5 minutes over this high heat, and I stirred the rice, and as you can see, there's some nice kind of golden, crispy brown parts. This is the type of high heat power that you can get with gas cooking. And so now we're going to try doing the same thing on the induction stovetop. So the skillet's been on the induction stovetop for only 1 minute, but it feels like it might be hot enough, so I'm going to grab a few drops of water. So the water immediately evaporated when I added it to the skillet, which tells me it's plenty hot. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple tablespoons of oil now, and then the rice, and we'll see how long it takes for it to get a really crisp crust. So I've tossed the rice with the oil, and now I'm going to spread it out and let it sit. So when cooking the rice on the gas stovetop, the rice was kind of golden brown and crispy and even lightly charred in some spots in about 1.5 minutes. This has now been about 4 minutes, and while the pan was quick to heat up, it is not maintained as high heat as you can get on gas. The rice is more evenly colored for sure, lightly golden, but it's not as like crisp and like darkly colored as you do get in the gas stovetop. Cooking with gas is really great at when you really need like high heat cooking, like making stir fries or searing steaks, things like that. With boiling of the water, we found that both gas and induction are pretty comparable. When it came to caramelizing sugar, I found that induction was better because the heat distribution was more even and it made it for more even coloring on the sugar. The only place where gas won was in stir frying rice. The induction stovetop actually heated up quicker, but it didn't maintain the high level of heat that you really need to get like a nice char on something like a stir fry or a steak. So I would say that, if you encounter an induction or electric cooktop in your future here in LA, you're no longer with gas, I think you'll be able to easily adapt your skills in home cooking to the new appliance.